The Westford Conservation Commission meeting for Wednesday, April 26, 2023. The first item on the agenda is open forum. Remember, any members of the commission have items for open forum? Matt?
Just a couple announcements. The town's electronic recycling day is scheduled for Saturday at the Highway Garage. Look on the town's website for more details. And the town elections are Tuesday, May 2nd, so please participate in the democratic process.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Do any members of the audience have topics for open forum? No? Okay. Moving on to our 7 o'clock agenda, the 7 o'clock agenda item. It's a continuation of public hearing and issue order of conditions for the Westford Department of Public Works Boston Road Improvement Project.
Good evening.
Good evening.
For the record, Jeremy Downs, Assistant Town Engineer. So since our last meeting, I think there was two pieces of information that the commission was looking for. One was on the grass seed specifications. We provided that to Matt, as well as legal opinion on the drainage channel near Crown Road. So we provided that information and can answer any questions.
Jim?
I was a little confused reading the lawyer's letter on the drainage
Yes.
easement. It sounds like there isn't one.
So there is, the subdivision plan is from the 60s, and it does show a drainage channel, an easement.
But none of the deeds did.
But it was never conveyed to the town. The town never took it.
Right,
So the
right.
town has no interest in it, but there is an easement that's shown on those plans.
So who does it belong to, the easement? Doesn't say then.
It doesn't say.
So
The original, I'd have to have, a title search done, I guess, to figure out who.
Farther back
But
than
the
19
original developer probably retained the rights when they conveyed the lots.
how
The town doesn't
your
have an
intent was to use that for part of that upper drainage facility, right?
Well, I suspect there was an existing swale drainage channel wetland there, so they just, back in the 60s, this seemed to be common practice. But
So I think to
So what
just
happens
jump
now?
in. So right now, the town is seeking temporary easements or, and some permanent easements for the construction of that, the sediment basin.
The upper one.
Yeah,
Okay.
that upper, and so they're.
One Crown Road.
Right,
okay.
and I think you're looking to acquire that through.
Yeah, we'll go through the eminent domain process for taking, but it's just for a permanent easement for that sediment forebay, and as Matt mentioned, a
So right
temporary
now,
easement to
you
construct.
can't proceed ahead because you don't actually have rights to that.
Correct. We can't, even if we wanted to,
Right,
we
right.
couldn't do anything. And then there's the other question of it is a wetland resource area, so.
Okay, you are in talks with that current homeowner, whoever it is at one.
Yeah, so that's that property is part of the Mass DOT layout, so Mass DOT Right-of-Way Bureau has been dealing with them. But
Okay.
We are,
Okay.
the town has started that and is well into the right-of-way process for the upper part of the project, and DOT is
Okay. That's what
handling the lower part.
Wasn't sure if I understood it right. I guess I did, unfortunately. Right.
Ann?
And my concern is with the tremendous increase in impervious surface of the roadway. It's going to go from about 28 feet wide now to 39 and a half. So that's a huge increase in the impervious surface. Is there some way to make it pervious or have it be less
So
impervious?
we
Or-
can't,
And also then, you wouldn't need such a large drainage structure at the bottom of the hill either, maybe, if there were less runoff.
so the new layout is 11-foot lanes, then 5-foot bike lanes, and then one side will have a sidewalk. So the additional, by adding the bike lanes and then extending the sidewalk, because it currently ends at Crown Road, that does add impervious area, but there's really no way to put a pervious type of gravel or even a pervious pavement. It doesn't really work in the Northeast. That when you have like porous pavement, it gets clogged with debris, sediment, salt, and it eventually becomes impervious. So what we've done here is we're adding the stormwater BMPs, both the sediment forebay and the really large wet basin.
At the bottom of the hill, which is what, 2
Correct.
acres or something?
So the wet basin will basically accommodate and allow us to, attain the peak rate attenuation that we need to attain, as well as give us some water quality treatment that today it's unmitigated flow. It just flows right into the wetlands, and in some areas it's with some erosive forces. So there's, it's, in our opinion, even though there's an increase in impervious area, it will be an improvement.
Can't consider cleaning?
What's that?
Cleaning a pervious surface?
Well, you can, but you have to use vac trucks, and it's very difficult to maintain. And whenever there's an issue and you have to cut into it, it's so expensive to replace. It's typically patched with regular asphalt. So there are some places that have done it in parking lots, but there's a high rate of failure.
We always encourage people to use pervious surfaces when they can.
But,
So-
and a lot of times that's for patios and walkways and stuff, I don't.
Okay.
This is a high intensity use, obviously more than 18,000 cars a day up and down.
Well,
Boston
there's
Road.
a walkway too, there'll be a sidewalk and bike lanes. Hopefully they're not driving in the bike lanes, but anyway, yeah. Okay, thank you.
Matt, did you have any,
I had nothing related to this.
are there any comments or questions from members of the audience on this? Okay. You had,
Order of conditions look good.
yeah,
I didn't have
I didn't have any problem
I
with
didn't see anything.
okay, and you had a chance?
Yes, we reviewed it. We had two very minor comments.
Yep, in the first sentence of the project description, adding and an intermittent stream after bordering vegetated wetlands. And then also the commission, the third finding from the bottom here, it's the impacts to the buffer zone are limited to an approximately 200-foot length of Boston Road, as opposed to 100, but very minor in details.
Well, and also with that third finding from the bottom, is it the I-495 on-ramps or off-ramps?
Well, it's southbound, so it's the off-ramp and the on-ramp.
Oh, so the on-ramp to Boston
Yeah,
Road.
so it's basically the
Okay.
first, as you approach, coming down Boston Road, it's the first,
Okay, it's-
ramps for 495.
It's based on the road, it's based on the road you're thinking about, which is Boston Road as
Yes.
opposed to the highway. Okay. So Matt, you're good with us issuing the order as amended?
Yes.
Can I have a motion to issue this order of conditions as amended?
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay. Well done.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Chairman.
We get stuff to sign?
Yes, we can do that as we mosey along.
Okay. Moving on to our 7:05 PM agenda item. It's a Girl Scout Gold Award project for Zeiger, the animal bite prevention flyers. Good evening.
Would you like me sitting or standing?
Whichever you're more comfortable doing. And just tell us who you are and tell us about your project.
Yeah. So, my name is Zoe Seeger, and I'm doing my project on animal bite prevention. I did have a slideshow. Is it possible to pull that up? Oh, thank you. And I'm doing my project on animal bite prevention. You can scroll down. So, in the U.S., 4.5 million people are bitten by dogs each year. In Westford, there's 1 or 2 reported dog bites every month. So my goal for this project is to raise awareness about the risks of animal bites and the best way to prevent them. So far, with my project, I've created a website that details things like safe interactions with animals and also the risks of zoonotic diseases, which are illnesses that can be passed from animals to humans, usually through bites. There's also, on the website, there's also an informational video, coloring pages for young children, and other resources, including a kid's book that I wrote and illustrated myself. I will be using both the book and the coloring pages in a preschool class that I will be teaching. And as young kids usually aren't educated and will run up to dogs who may or may not want to be petted, which can be dangerous. For older audiences, I've distributed flyers at the public places such as the library, Muffins on Main, and downstairs. And in August, I will be having a booth at the Westford Farmers Market during the Pet Themed Week. As many pet owners come to that. This is the flyer I'm hoping to post on the trails. It details things such as what signs to look for in an uncomfortable animal, good information for if you have an animal, including keeping that animal on a leash, and some of the risks of animal bites. I'm hoping to post this on the trails as many dog walkers from Westford and other towns use the trails we have in town, and having the flyers on. So obviously there's a lot of interactions between pets and humans taking place, and also because most of the trails are wooded, it's very common to run into wild animals, and it's good to know what to do in that situation, which is to avoid when possible. Scroll down. These are the site kiosks I'm hoping to put my flyer at. You guys were very kind to let me put my Silver Award flyer on lost pet prevention at these sites a couple years ago, and I am more than happy to simply replace that flyer with this new flyer in order to not take up any more space. Any questions?
That's a great project. Thanks for emphasizing, use your pets on leash.
Yes.
Yeah, we have a problem with that in town, and then anything like that'll help.
Is that the ones that are down in the town clerk's office?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I give them out when we give the dog licenses. Everybody gets an extra one.
Thank you so much.
All dog licensed people get one.
Thank you.
So what was the flyer you did for your silver award?
So for my Silver Award, that flyer was on lost pet prevention, so what to do if an animal gets lost and how to prevent them from getting lost. I did that a couple of years ago.
I don't see a reason to take it down unless we don't have real estate out there.
We'll evaluate that in the field,
Yeah.
see what's in some of the, because there may be, that's a great point, there may be some area in the kiosks, to just leave it up,
Good idea.
just add to.
Have the signs held up well over, I mean, is it a protected sheet of paper, or do you get it laminated?
We get them laminated.
Oh, okay,
Yeah, we get them laminated, so they'll hold up for a while.
okay. Thanks, very good.
So much.
Motion to approve the locations.
Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the requested locations for posting this information?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you
for
so
doing
much.
this.
Yes.
I'll be in touch when coordinating schedules.
Okay, moving on to our 7:10 PM agenda item. We have a public hearing.
Under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, the Wetlands Protection Act, and Westford's non-zoning wetland bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 26, 2023, at 7:10 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street. Consider the notice of intent application of Chris Karpinski for the relocation of a driveway within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetlands at 116 Carlisle Road, Assessors Map 7, Parcel 10, Lot 0.
Good evening.
Good evening. Yeah, thank you. My name's Chris Karpinski, 116 Carlisle Road. And my property has a bit of a curse, and that is that every man that has owned it over the last 50 years has met a woman and she didn't like the driveway. And Exhibit A over here, and now I'm getting married this year, and she says, fix the driveway. So started the process of tell me if you want more or less detail as I go along. I'll be quick. Started the process of looking at what to do with my existing driveway. The current driveway is built in the 1970s. It's 500 feet long. Has 20% grade for the majority of it, which doesn't work in New England, and is in really rough shape. All the water, when it rains, comes rushing down, right down the bottom to Carlisle Road. Fire trucks can't get up that because they can't make the grade change. Just bad news all the way around. So I went through and started working on design, engineering background, and had a set of design goals that I followed for designing the new driveway, and in particular maximizing safety was the big concern. I guess the 0th item there is to make the wife happy, but really get safety in mind, and make sure that the first responders can get up and down just fine, disturb as little land as possible, manage stormwater, even though this project's less than 1 acre disturbed, that's still important to me. And although there are lots of wonderful things from the 1970s, this driveway is not one that should remain, and really would like to try to restore the land back to what it was before this driveway came along. I've sat and watched where the wildlife come from the conservation land across the way and how they navigate across the road and where they go on my land, and I want to maintain that. And instead of trying to establish curb appeal, I want to establish woodlands, and just, you won't even notice it's there, is the ultimate goal. So as I went down through this, I looked at the GIS and saw that there was some wetlands delineated across the road on Carlisle Road, and my rough measurement was about 125 feet from my property, and I wanted to confirm that, so I reached out to Matt and asked him to confirm. He walked the site and thought that the data on the GIS was wrong, recommended an RDA process, and I and the engineer just said, well, let's get the wetland scientists out there, delineate the wetlands, go and shoot it, shoot all the trees, everything, know where everything is at, and so that's where we're here today. So the wetlands 100-foot buffer hits our property about 25 feet on the frontage. So to relocate the driveway, I don't have any other option but to disturb inside of that 100-foot buffer. So you see on the right there, the dash.
The orange button.
Oh, yeah. Thank you. I'll be sure to not take anyone's eyes out. Right here is the delineated wetlands, and then 100 feet over, and so just this tiny little slice right through here, which is about 25 feet from the road, is onto my lot. So the current driveway comes down here. There's a parking area here, a guardrail here. This all was established in 1970. The idea is that, and then the entrance down the Carlisle Road. The idea is to abandon this, relocate the entrance down here, add about 100 feet of additional sightline, because there's a really nasty curve over here. And then, of course, I have the extra length to go ahead and to continue the driveway up pretty much its original corridor, to get it to be about a 13%, just under 13% grade. I went and measured the fire trucks at the fire station. They got a kick out of that to make sure that when I modeled this in simulation that they can navigate this, both this compound curve and also the grade change, and make it up and down here just fine. So got this good design in place, but the only concern is that there's 3 trees here and 1 tree over here that's in the 100-foot buffer that we need to be removed. And then to establish this driveway, down here, we'd want to fill this back in and get rid of this guardrail, get rid of this pavement over here, and then do whatever restorative plantings are appropriate. So put together a team. I got even arborist involved here to help me look at the trees on the whole part of the site here, and also what was going down here to give me advice of what to do. And he gave me suggestions of how to replant this whole hillside for this project. So there's a lot that's going to happen over here that's in the spirit of what's detailed here for the wetlands permitting process. No impact at all to anything over here. There's a catch basin right here. We'll make sure that's well protected. And then the new design of the driveway is such that a lot of the water will be pulled off earlier up the hill and then carefully managed all the way down. I worked with Paul Sterrett a little bit to get some ideas of how to do the stormwater BMPs. Again, not required for this project for them to review it, but they were very helpful and incorporated that in the design. So I guess basically right now the request is, this impact that I have here in the 100-foot buffer, and so it's the removal of 4 trees, restorative plantings, get rid of that paved parking area, get rid of this guardrail here, and then fill in right here. And then there's a stone wall that is currently right through here. And my best guess was, because there was a piece of that wall over here years ago, that in 1970 that wall continued all the way through here before this driveway came in. So what I would like to do is reestablish a stone wall right along the frontage here, in the spirit of what I think was there long ago. And that stone wall would also be inside of the frontage. There's a tree here that's a really nice oak, and just have a little tree well around that, and also to catch this grade and keep that back away from that tree, and of course this catch basin here. I worked with Kyle Fox from the highway department, and he helped me figure out where to send the water in either direction, and he's happy with me going either up or down with it here, but I think I'll just go right towards this catch basin here, because that just seems to be the best this point. So I can go on and give you more details, or I can answer questions, or?
Jim?
A couple of minor questions.
Yeah.
You mentioned, you talked to the highway department about, and the emergency access. Is the road has, I couldn't really see much of a crown based on the contour lines. Is the road is crowned to shed water as opposed to run it down like the old road?
You're talking about the driveway?
Yes.
Yeah, so it's what's called super elevated, so on the curves, you tilt it towards the inside of the curve. So the engineer hasn't done that so much here yet, but the
Right.
intent is that this here will curve, this will tilt to the left, and there'll be catch basins distributed down here along that.
Okay.
This here will curve towards the inside, and
Right. The contour lines now don't show that.
I would agree.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So
Yep.
that's one thing.
Yep.
You said you
He's
talked
working on that
about
now.
emergency vehicles.
Yeah.
As far as the entranceway, I know this is outside our 100-foot, but how about on the curve radius at the top?
So the fire department has this wonderful diagram of what their ladder truck requires for a radius.
They can get in and out?
In and out,
Okay.
and actually the ladder truck is the hardest thing, not because of its length, but because of the stabilizer pad that's only 1 foot off the ground. So I even analyzed that too, and my analysis says it can get up there and get around the curve and turn around and come
Okay.
back down.
That's all I had. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good luck.
It's a very ambitious
I don't want to
piece.
test it though.
No?
I had a question. You said you're gonna fill between the old entrance and the new.
Yes.
What are you gonna fill?
So the design presently reuses all material that has to be excavated further up the hill. It's
Okay.
relocated down here.
Okay,
Yeah, so the only thing that gets brought in is a new crushed gravel to go under here, and the only thing that gets brought out is this asphalt here. Everything else is reusing material that's on site.
okay. And the driveway is now like 700 feet as opposed to 300, is that right?
Yeah, so the new driveway, the way you get the less steep
Grade,
is more length. And so going from 20% down to 12.7 where it is now requires length. And so it's about 200 feet longer.
Oh, so 500 to 700, okay.
Yeah, so, essentially this length here and then some other design details as it goes up through here and follows the original path. I was able to get some extra length there.
Okay.
Sounds good to me.
So out of curiosity, because of the extra length, you're also looking at an increase in impervious surface?
I think, I haven't calculated the surface area of this. It's a decrease of impervious surface in the 100-foot buffer.
Okay.
Yep, so this whole area here goes away. This goes away too, but essentially that's being replicated here. But this design here quickly gets out of the 100-foot buffer, whereas this has a lot of extra stuff hanging out in the. So I guess conceivably 200 times 12 square feet of extra impervious surface will be.
Well, yeah, but, I mean, you're taking out, well.
But outside of the 100-foot buffer.
Yeah, and it just, some of it just, that's one of the things that we look at is impervious surface,
Yeah.
just,
Me too.
so, okay.
So I gotta do something with that water. I gotta get all that water to lose energy and go in the ground and get it to spread over through
Get
here.
it off the road.
And get it off the road, yeah, and get it off the road before it gets fast, because,
Yes.
I could sit there and spread salt right now in the winter, the 1 or 2 times I've had to do it in the last 5 years, and it will slide like 200 feet down the road. So you can imagine how fast the water gets whipping down there, and it's a really bad design that they did back in the 70s. So the idea now is catch all the water in catch basins, get it into controlled flow, and then get it to sheet out and sheet flow over undisturbed earth and get it to go back in the ground.
I went out to the site this week, and I don't feel that the plan does it justice for the pitch of the how steep the driveway is.
You made it halfway up.
Yeah, and then I saw Chris and turned around. I just used gravity, and I didn't even put it in reverse. So I certainly think there's a benefit, and I think the overall scope of the project, is a benefit overall.
I've driven by this driveway, straight up.
And,
I thought I was going to get launched.
Yeah. Oh, I know.
So what's the fire department do now? I mean, if there's a fire.
they told me not to set my house on fire and that they'd be rolling a hose up the hill.
Okay.
But yeah, and another issue too is there's actually, with this house that was built here in like 2010, I think it was, they have a driveway right here, and it dumps right out here, and this vegetation here really blocks their view in the only direction that they had to see. So in the way, getting this guardrail out of here just really helps them have a more safe experience, being able to see down Carlisle Road before they go out on there.
We got a letter from
Yes.
Mr. Blau.
They sent me a wonderful neighbor, yeah.
They sent it in.
And who owns the guardrail?
The guardrail's on my property, so it's mine. Yeah, it's a wooden guardrail. It's a,
It's not a state or city.
Yeah, no, it's to stop velocity. It's to stop the
Stop
velocity
from going
coming
out
down.
onto Carlisle Road. We're not allowed to fail.
I'm not even sure that. I think it's more psychological.
Okay, so, it looks like there's been no DEP file number assigned yet.
No, but I would request the commission continue after public comment, see if there's any public comment.
Okay. So, do any members of the audience have any comments or questions on this application? No? Okay. So, we'll continue and then order conditions the next time?
Yes, I'll draft order conditions if it's the commission's pleasure for their review at their next meeting.
I don't know if the plan is going to be updated, but at least the order of conditions ought to include the a crown on the driveway.
Yeah, a crown, and also was going to include some language about the super elevation. Not sure if I'd be able to accurately describe it, but we'll.
Make it say 2 to 4% super elevated. That's what I'm telling the engineer.
Okay. Can I have a motion to continue the public hearing?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so,
What date?
continue to May 10th,
Okay, my God.
2 weeks from today.
2 weeks.
Yeah, perfect. Okay, thank you.
And Matt will.
Thank you.
Yeah.
A lot of work on it.
And Matt will send you the draft order conditions so that you can review it ahead of time in case you have any questions.
Perfect. And if you have any questions, just email me.
Okay,
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
thank you. So, moving on to our 7:20 PM agenda item, it's public hearing for Desai.
This is being rescheduled for the May 10th meeting, as the legal notice,
Didn't get out.
wasn't run in the newspaper. So
So to May 10th.
please hold on to those pieces of your meeting packet,
Okay,
if at
so
all possible.
We do not have to do anything like a continuation?
Nope.
Okay, so we just skip to the 7:25 PM agenda item, which is another public hearing.
Under Westford's non-zoning wetland bylaw, Chapter 171, the Westford Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Wednesday, April 26th, 2023, at 7:25 PM in Meeting Room 201 at Town Hall, 55 Main Street, to consider the request for determination of applicability application of Erica and Brian Rome for the construction of a 16 by 32-foot above-ground swimming pool in an existing lawn area within 100 feet of bordering vegetated wetland at 2 Meadowview Lane, Assessors Map 32, Parcel 17, Lot 0.
Hi, I'm Kieran McQuaid from Atlee Swimming Pools. I'm representing the project. We'll be installing the above-ground pool at the Rome's house. So I was the one that filed everything and carried through. I have to apologize. I forgot my hearing aids at home today, so a little, yeah,
Well, speak up.
thank you.
And we're happy to repeat, don't worry about
Yeah.
it.
Thank you. No worries. So we filed an application for a permit for an above-ground swimming pool located as shown on the certified plot plan, 1632. It does fall slightly within the wetlands buffer.
Where is that? I
Buffer zone.
didn't see any distances.
It's,
The Stony Brook is back there, but there's no
I didn't
distance.
see any distances either, but
Yeah.
Matthew,
I was out yesterday and measured off from the edge of. It's a great time of year to do a wetland delineation. All the skunk cabbage is up great, It's quick and easy. Found the edge of that, and to this nearest corner of. So on the plan, these two lines are existing retaining walls, probably 6 feet, 5, 6 feet tall. And so to this corner of the lower retaining wall was about 85 feet to the wetland resource. So, this is where it is a proposed above-ground pool, but correct me if I'm wrong, the intent is to have a construct a pool deck around it
yeah,
at elevation?
That's not in my scope of the work, but I'm sure that will happen, yes.
Okay, and so in terms of the, and that, it made sense on site, you know, where if the above-ground pool, the deck would be at the elevation of this patio area and be able to walk out and, you know, then be above the pool. And the proposed fence is shown around.
That's a giveaway right there.
Yep. And so, you know, in terms of the scope of the work, it is all existing lawn. It is a minor activity under 310 CMR 10.2 2B2E. There is no similar exemption under the local bylaw. I think there is some minor grading that does need to occur for the pool, in the location of the pool, but there are a couple low spots that I did observe westerly of the proposed pool, outside the wetland buffer, that it could be relocated and graded into the lawn.
Jim?
A couple of things about the pool. Fresh water, I assume?
Yes.
Okay. Where's the pump and the discharge for the filter backflushing gonna be?
We're planning on locating it as close to the garage as possible. So we're actually moving it over to the right, running some underground lines to accommodate the suction and return lines.
So where would the discharge be when the filter is
The
backflush?
discharge would be behind the garage.
And is there any kind of and this is all gentle slope back towards the wetlands? Is that it?
No, so there is a wetland much further back, but the nearest wetland to
off to the side.
proposed is easterly on this property. I think it's
So 85 feet, you were saying, from here? over
this
to-
way. Yes, correct.
Okay, and it's a lot further back? to
Yes,
Stony
yeah,
Brook?
it's wooded, you know,
Okay.
probably after 100 feet or
So
if not
surface
further.
discharge in this area would be okay?
Yeah, so it would be
Outside the
there.
hundred.
Sorry, Matt,
I'm
in
sorry.
terms of slope?
Yeah, it was all fairly flat back there. It was graded.
Okay, and then last question, where would you keep pool chemicals, things like that? Is there gonna be a pool house or something to store that sort of material in?
I haven't discussed that with them, but we certainly can make that note that they need to keep that product away from the area.
Yeah, the farther, so if it's over near where the discharge is in that vicinity, that'd be better than
Yeah,
towards the wetland.
yeah.
The floor, with the floor.
Well, and
Yeah.
I guess, are you talking about a separate structure, or for example, just put it in the garage?
Whatever, the garage should be fine by me, I don't know if you're
Yeah.
gonna store it.
Yeah, it's always recommended to keep it in a cool, dry area, so, not to leave it outside anyway, so, it looks like they've actually got a salt chlorine generating system that's going to be producing chlorine using the salt in the water, so there will be very little chemical going into this pool.
It's gonna be a salt water? I thought
Salt water.
you said fresh,
Well, I just looked at the contract and
it changed.
they did have it as a salt chlorine generating system.
Usually the saltwater ones don't have a discharge then, you just
No,
change
that's a cartridge filter system.
Right, you change the cartridge filter, but you don't backflush.
No, a salt system can go on any filter system. It doesn't necessarily apply to the filter system itself. So a salt chlorine generating system attaches to the plumbing of the pool and generates chlorine using the salt that's dissolved in the water. So it has nothing really to do with the filter system.
So you do have a discharge or you don't?
You'll have discharge from the filter. It has nothing to do with the salt chlorine generating
Right.
system.
Oh,
Yes.
Okay.
Yep. So as far as the discharge goes, we do have the ability to recommend or install a cartridge-style filter, which would eliminate all discharge.
So what are you building here?
It's an above-ground pool with a
Right.
sand filter.
What type of filtering system?
Sand filter.
All right, salt water,
Sand filter.
salt water with a sand filter?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Matt, did you have any other comments or questions before I open it to the,
No, I have a couple just basic conditions for after, if there's any.
okay. Are there any comments or questions on this project from members of the audience? Okay, so we'll continue to the May 10th.
I mean, I think this can be issued. It is
Oh,
an
as a
RDA.
negative?
Yeah, as a conditional negative determination of applicability. 3, again, minor conditions. were, the installation of erosion controls between the proposed pool area and the lot line and BVW. The pump system to be located outside the buffer to the BVW, and the storage of chemicals in garage, or, storage of the chemicals outside the BVW buffer, like the garage.
Okay, so can I have a motion for a conditional negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
Thank you very much, I appreciate your time.
okay, and
We have things to sign.
yes, these things to sign. Okay, moving on to our 7:30 PM agenda item, 37 Colonial Drive, a discussion of a potential pool improvement project. Good evening, for the record, you are?
My name's Stephen Fell. I'm the owner, one of the owners of 37 Colonial Drive.
Okay.
3 kids live there.
If you wanna, tell us about your project?
Oh, sure. I guess, yeah, we don't have anything to show, but.
We have
Oh, you have some out there?
Yeah.
Did you get this, too?
Yes.
Yeah, and that little device has
Yeah.
the orange button.
Little marker. Oh, there you go. All right, you're all digitized here. I love it. So we have an existing pool. It's we love it, but there's no place to sit. So we want to extend. So we have this like PebbleTech system that's currently around the pool. That's been there since we've owned it. I think it's original to the house. It's still intact. Has not cracked. It's in great shape. Have no, desire to take up the PebbleTech. We're just looking to create more patio space for my family. So, so this was one of the proposals for the patio extension with that the landscape architect Doug McQuaid drew up for us. And so we are close to, probably not gonna say it as well as you, but we're close to the 100-year FEMA flood zone, and certainly we want to take that in consideration. And so looking for suggestions and thoughts on how we could extend our existing patio.
Madam Chair, if I may. So Mr. Fell reached out regarding, the inclusion of the or enlarging the pool deck area. The only jurisdictional resource within proximity is the 100-year FEMA flood zone, bordering land subject to flooding. That is at elevation 200. Looking at GIS maps and the topographic information the town has obtained on GIS, it puts the 30-foot buffer approximately in this general area of the top of the pool, of the northerly edge of the pool. And as shown on the plan, there's proposed work going, I believe the 30-foot no disturb buffer to the BVW under the bylaw is approximately in this location here. BVW is in is located in the top of at the top of the plan, and that was the where portions of it are being proposed within the commission's no disturb. Again, the pool and the lawn and fenced-in area certainly were constructed at a time prior to the FEMA flood maps changing, and I wanted to have this discussion with the commission prior to filing to look at opportunities to get a feel for the commission on ideas, with if a RDA is the appropriate filing, in addition to the photo, this photo, the pavilion is kind of proposed kitty corner, within that 30 to 55 foot buffer to the bordering vegetated, or bordering land subject to flooding, and just kind of get an idea to see what the commission's thoughts were. There are, if, I don't know if the pavilion could be, relocated closer to the house. I know there's the existing deck, but I wanted to get the commission's thoughts and have a discussion prior to, directing a filing incorrectly.
Jim?
The layout for us where the wetlands are in the direction, is it off to the?
So the bordering
upper right?
vegetated wetland is in the top of the plan, and it's based upon the elevation of the 100-year floodplain,
So it's-
which is at elevation 200. So that's approximately in this, outside the existing fenced-in area.
So we're talking about a floodplain, not a wetland.
Yes.
So it's a buffer to a floodplain, not a buffer to a wetland.
What about if in the area closest to the floodplain, there's some sort of an elevated deck which would allow infiltration below it, as opposed to a solid deck?
I think the pool deck was proposed to be pervious.
Absolutely.
All right?
Yeah.
I think that's in a narrative, was in
Yeah, we
their
wrote it.
description.
All right.
Absolutely built in a permeable fashion. I think, that's not solid concrete or anything like that by any means.
So the brown ring line is the wall construction that's?
That'll be a retaining wall. That's correct. Oops.
Okay, so the new pool deck is actually gonna be above the grade of the ground where the landscaping is?
That's correct. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so it's an elevated pool deck, and you're saying that that's gonna be permeable?
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Built in a permeable fashion.
Yeah.
So what's the elevation? How much are you raising it by?
So maybe I'll say it clearer, or in a different way, right?
Yeah.
As you go to I think it's the north side of the pool towards the street, that slopes upward, right? So it goes sort of up. We would be digging out some of that. I don't know, it's maybe a little hard, maybe better to tell. Yeah, from there. See how it kind of like slopes up a bit?
Yep.
So that's where we'd be digging out. So it wouldn't be a step up or anything like that. It would just be sort of level across that. And all that dirt sort of goes up, if you will, a few feet, and that's why we need a retaining wall, amongst a few other things.
Also, the retaining wall, okay, so
to
the
hold
deck
the dirt,
level is
right.
below, okay, so it's to hold the ground out, not hold the deck up, okay.
And is everything,
right.
yeah, and everything proposed, you're not moving this fence at all?
not at all.
Okay.
No.
Okay, that was my, this.
We're totally open for suggestions, right? Like this was the first thing you came up with, and if we need to, I don't really like it. I don't really personally like how he goes all the way to the edge of the pool over there. It's kind of too much, and it's just not really necessary. So
Can you go back to the picture, Matt? So the retaining wall would be inside the fence, correct?
So that fence is clearly blown down, which we have a
The new fence,
temporary. Yeah, exactly. So the retaining wall will be just on the inside of the new fence, and I think there's new fence lines on. You can see it there. That pencil right there. Yes.
I see, okay.
Yeah, the new fence, and that'll connect with the existing black fence that's up now.
So it seems like most of this work is further away. As further away as it basically can be.
Yeah.
And where was the boundary again, Matt?
It's
Top right?
Yeah, it's in this top of the plan, which is south. There's
So
no.
it'd be nice to see it on the plan, but I really don't have an issue with the plan. It's just hard to get a
Right, but the
reference on
concept-
where I am. It's more the concept.
The concept, okay, and that's something I can certainly work with. I mean, as, a pavilion's being proposed, a building permit's going to need to be, ultimately, a building permit will need to be filed for that. And so I think it may be best to have, when a certified when the certified plot plan, have a certified plot plan prepared for.
Say that 3 times fast.
It's been a long day. When that's prepared, show the pavilion but also include the bordering, the elevation of the bordering land subject to flooding, and then that can give, some context as to its location. But again, I think it is, outside the existing fenced-in area for this, for the pool area.
I mean, it's not like we'd be telling him to push it up that way. He's kept it away from where we tell him to keep it away from.
Yeah.
There are no changes to the pool at all, right?
No, not at all. No.
I don't have any
Okay.
trouble.
Yeah, I think I've understood the commission's comments, and I can certainly work with the homeowner. We can certainly have this come before the commission ultimately for review and
Right.
keep moving things along for the
Talk on the
project.
side.
Yep. Yeah, we'll talk. We'll talk
All right,
tomorrow.
cool. Okay.
Okay.
Thanks for your time.
Appreciate the discussion.
Yeah, you as well.
Okay, moving on to our 7:35 PM agenda item. It's a continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Eagle Scout candidate Zagerman, the Tom Pole Trail footbridges. Good evening.
Your name for the record.
All right, my name is AJ Sageman.
And following up the commission's last meeting, there were a couple, there was one item I had to follow up with. I think the commission was wanted to get an answer as to whether the construction of the approach to the footbridge was to be
Handicap
included.
access-
Right,
handicap
exactly.
accessible.
And I spoke with the building commissioner, who is the ADA coordinator for the town, and his thought was that the approaches to the bridges would be included in any trail improvements to make ADA compliant, as opposed to be, the footbridges, from the extent, is this extent to, as proposed in AJ's plans, and, if the trail to the bridge ultimately is to be constructed to ADA standards and AAB standards,
that.
then the approach
Okay.
would be made consistent and
But the bridge is ready to receive it.
yes, the bridge will be ready if some other Eagle Scout wants to take on the task of making an ADA trail in town.
Or the town.
Yeah, we'll see about that one.
Okay.
And that's included as one of the findings, I think, as well,
Okay.
for.
Yes, Jim?
Have you met with the building commissioner yet?
Not yet.
Not yet, okay.
Okay. So before we go to the order of conditions, are there any comments or questions on this project from members of the audience? Okay, so have you had a chance to review the order of conditions with Mr. Saylor?
Not yet.
I sent these to you.
Well, I said I've
Okay.
read them over.
He's
You've
re- yeah,
read them, you understand them?
Yeah.
Any questions you had have been answered?
Nope.
Yes.
Yes.
Had no question.
He has no questions.
No questions? Okay.
Yes, you have
You
no
have
questions.
Yes, you have no questions.
Sorry.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Do you have any questions about anything for us?
No, not at this
Okay,
point.
that answers what I was asking, in a convoluted way.
Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay, so Matt will be in touch.
In the upcoming tomorrow or the following day.
Good luck with your project.
Yes, good luck with the project.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for doing it.
Okay, moving on to our 7:40 PM agenda item, continuation of a public hearing and issue order of conditions for Samia, 12 Castle Road.
Good evening. My name's Nick Pauling. I'm with Goldsmith Preston Ringwall. We've been before you a couple of times. I think a couple of unforeseen questions or comments came up at the meeting. So I just wanted to make myself available to kind of answer any of those conversations or questions. I have talked a little bit with Matt offline. I believe those were, just memorializing or including, excuse me, some of the concerns water and electricity in the site and the surrounding area. So that's in the works as far as the electrical grid, National Grid, taking care of their issue. I don't want water in my electricity. I don't know about any of you, but neither does Mr. Samia, so that's something on his list, and hopefully that's something that everyone can get the right people going in the right direction. I believe the second comment or question was a statement relative to the possible repaving of the driveway itself. Matt originally presented the idea of if the driveway was repaved, that it would be done to basically reverse the pitch so that runoff came down the hill and then actually flowed along this side of the drive here rather than continuing, across the driveway towards this wetland. Great idea. Putting it into practice may be somewhat difficult. So originally Matt sent draft language that said if the drive was to be repaved, runoff shall be directed within the interior side of the driveway to direct it into this wetland area just off the page. I suggested, I like the idea, just due to the grades that are hard to read. I know it's the cursive. Actually, they're a little bit better on the TV, but the light doesn't work on the TV. So currently the driveway, these existing contours here, that is an existing contour, and then further down this way. So what you'll see is, this angle of the driveway here. What that means is that this driveway is actually pitching from here to here, as we were talking about. So from the property line up to the turnaround, that averages anywhere from 6 to 8%. So 8% on a 12-foot driveway, that's a foot. So to try to use my hands and arms, but right now the driveway is pitched this way, house would be here. If we wanted to have the water flow here, what that would mean is if we held the wetland side of the driveway, we would have to excavate 2 feet to get below to reverse that pitch. So I just suggested that the wording be every effort shall be made to direct runoff towards the wetland. Just from a standpoint, cutting, 1.5 to 2 feet out of this side, that has ramifications of catching up into the existing grading. Now, you say, well, it doesn't all have to come off the inside, but if we do some sort of combination, we would have to raise the wetland side, which is already a very minimal shoulder, and then a steep slope down into the wetlands. So, again, it's a decent idea, but from putting it into practice may be more difficult. So I suggested to Matt.
So you're saying in some parts it may be feasible, in other parts it's not?
Correct, and that's where I suggested every effort shall be made to direct the runoff to the wetland rather than a 5-letter word of shall, meaning it has to happen.
Jim?
What if we had, can you identify the areas where it is possible? Because what I don't like is just the idea that we'll try, but we may not be able to do it. Because that leaves wide open the gate for, no, we're not gonna do anything.
I understand.
And I'd really like to know what you can do.
So where...
Do it.
Yeah.
Tell us now.
Where it's maybe possible is down here.
Where is it possible?
Where it's most feasible.
Where it's most feasible is here, where it comes off, and it may not even actually be on the property yet. So we have to, if it was repaved, it would be from the secondary cul-de-sac through, what was disturbed. I don't think that we would meet the full intention of this statement.
So how do we prevent this from happening?
Go ahead.
What do we do if it happens? If the water flows, we'll read up.
So this is water coming down, is it water coming down the driveway, or is it water coming off the lawn next to the driveway and flowing across?
It would, because of the pitch of the driveway itself, it's the water that would be from the grass adjacent to it hitting
Okay.
the pavement and then coming down. I will say it's the natural flow, natural drainage pattern. I'll kind of go back to the 3 roof recharge areas. So we should have less water flowing down that national pattern already. It's just, unfortunately, this is high, this is low.
There's an electrical box there, is that the issue?
Yeah, and that's down,
And what happens if the water goes on this electrical box? Does it
So
take
that's
everybody's
being-
electricity next door?
Doesn't seem to be causing a problem right now.
Well, now, but
Right,
we're here, we're
that's-
here to
but
make
that's-
sure
but
that
that's-
we do
but
everything.
the electric, there's kind of 2 separate,
Okay, so
you know.
explain to me how it's not gonna go on the next door neighbor's property and.
So the electrical, I think Nick provided a good explanation as to, you know,
I
the
heard it.
existing conditions, you know.
I got
and
it.
trying to achieve, you know, the intent, but in practice, it may not be.
So what happens then?
So the water that we're talking about, the driveway, is not the water that is getting into the electric. If the electric box is raised and properly elevated to the surrounding grade, then the water surrounding it won't enter.
So
Correct.
whose responsibility is it to raise that electric box?
I think National Grid is, based on my understanding, that's in the work with National Grid. I think it's a minor activity,
Okay.
or an exempt activity
So if
from.
they did that would alleviate this whole,
Correct.
It takes care of one issue.
yes.
And the reverse pitching of the driveway may help,
I
but
hear you.
they're not
I hear you.
directly tied
But there is
together.
something physical that we expect hopefully to be done, which is with this electric.
Yeah, the
So that
electrical.
we're attempting to do it so that, okay.
Jim?
That's more
Some
than
segments
something
of
now.
trench drain or something on the interior side of the driveway, at least prevent runoff onto the driveway,
So
something like that. I don't know where would be the.
So this is where I'd answer, I feel like we've already exceeded the requirements of the bylaw. Yes, catch basins, manholes, trench drains, all kinds of drainage features could be put in. The question that I have to ask the commission is how is this single-family residence different than others of requiring that level of drainage?
You're just trying to keep the runoff on your property, staying on your property.
I understand, but, so the drainage requirements is that we meet or make better existing conditions, not hold all water. So if we're on the side of a hill, it's not, hey, hold on, we're not allowed to discharge any water. And again, there is a, wrong button. Didn't do anything. And again, if we are trying to cut off all water flowing this way, we're actually changing the hydrology of a BVW.
So this is not a case of there's no water going off the site today. Today, there's water going off the site, and that's what we're looking to mitigate the impacts that that's having on an adjacent parcel.
Yeah, water flows downhill, knowing we've provided the recharge areas for the impervious surfaces on the site to offset drainage from those that isn't allowed to get into the ground. So our calculations show that there's less water leaving the site after construction than today.
Can you quantify how much the roof drains are likely to reduce the flow?
I did bring a plan, luckily. I think it's actually on the 3rd page, Matt. Do you have that one? Sure. So this is top center, right above it, right there. So what we're looking at is using a 1/2 inch of recharge over all the impervious surfaces of 4,600.5 square feet. We're required to infiltrate 193 cubic feet. Based on the 3 areas that we're providing, we're actually providing 248. So if we're round numbers, we're providing 250 and we were required, or our target was 200. So we're exceeding our own target while also taking a 1/2 inch rain event and putting it into the ground.
What's it currently if it's,
None, just downspouts to the ground.
is it 250 is all additional then?
Yes. Yes. The 200 is a calculation as a number of a half-inch times all the impervious is proposed on the site.
So you're saying in, in the smaller rain events, this will actually prevent any water from, this will stop the water from flowing across the driveway and off the site. It's only in the heavier events where the amount of water coming in will exceed what the infiltration can handle.
This is directly a volume, it's not a rate.
Okay.
And I think your question is a rate question.
Okay, yeah, and I'm just kind of,
yeah.
I guess what I'm trying to understand from a layman's perspective is, does this mean there's 10%?
I got you.
Yeah, the 10% is now being infiltrated, whereas today none is, or, you know, it just kind of,
I didn't do that percentage of that calculation, unfortunately.
But it's something.
Yeah, I liken it to say, if you stand in a spot today and it rains and then water flows down, you're gonna have wet shoes. If that same rain event happened after construction and you stood in the same spot, you may still have wet shoes, but the faucet ran for a shorter amount of time because we're putting water from the rain event directly into the ground and eliminating it from running off.
okay. Noel, did you have a question?
I did. Did you say there's negative angle or grade to the driveway? Or reverse? What do you call it?
So the idea of changing the pitch or the super elevation of the road, we would have to reverse the existing slope. Right now it goes from the house or the proposed house across the driveway to the wetland.
Right.
So if we want water to flow here, this elevation needs to get lower than the wetland
Sure.
side.
Okay.
So it either needs to be flat, where it would just continue down the driveway, or reversed.
But so the driveway is not pitched, right? It's
Right
just-
now, it is pitched, yes, 6 to 8% from left to right as you're driving up.
So it's pitched towards the property line.
Towards the wetland, okay. And you're gonna leave it pitched or change?
Well,
That would be the intent. Now, we may be able to knock that down based on removing and then limited grading tying into the shoulder. And maybe reduce that down to a lesser percentage, 2 to 4%, and then you would have, you don't get a direct flow from here directly across, you would get more of a diagonal.
Sure.
And you have a longer residence time, it's called, along the pavement. And then that is the part where if we cut that pitch down, the driveway also climbs as you drive up it. So if we cut down the pitch from left to right and we can keep it on the driveway, then we can get it to flow down the driveway, down towards this area, and then may potentially be able to get it into the wetland area. But without coming out with a full-blown grading plan for something we don't know if he's actually going to do yet, is kind of the part. So paving guys can do some things. Sometimes they're a little bit better to just tell them what you want rather than try to make a plan. They don't really read them.
So you'll have that discussion, though?
And again, if, as the condition that we proposed of, you know, every effort shall be made, you know, we understand the
It doesn't hurt
intent,
to say it
and it
over.
gives us some flexibility to actually implement it. So I think it's hard to have implemented, but we're willing to give it a try. I'm not against it. I didn't come to say, you know, absolutely not. I just wanted to present the conditions to the commission.
You're pretty honest.
Fortunately.
I'm not comfortable with the way condition
wording.
42 is written, where if is repaving, then we'll give it a try. It sounds good, but what does it get? What does it actually require? Nothing.
Well, and I think, Matt, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think the repaving is in there because there was a thought that there might need to be based on damage to the driveway from all the construction activity, but if, in fact, the driveway is not damaged during construction, then the thought would be not to repave it.
Right now, right, so you're 100% right. The repaving of the driveway was not part of the application. From a logistical standpoint, originally we hit that same button again.
The sentence, it starts out with if it's being repaved.
Right,
but
so that
but
was-
then the last
That's what he's
sentence.
saying.
Right, and this was based, this is based off of a discussion we had when I verified the wetland resources, and looking at it, and, you know, where all this work is being done, you know, if repaving is going to be done, I thought it should be in the notice of intent, so they didn't have to refile something with the commission, you know, as.
Because the driveway's in the buffer.
Right, because the driveway's in the buffer.
And originally, we actually had the erosion barrier on the up gradient side, and then it came to a point where we had to cross the wetland, which is a weak point just inherently of removing for access, putting back. So adding and having this conversation with Matt, it was a great idea. We were able to actually put in a permanent erosion control on the down gradient side to allow for, hey, the erosion control's already set up, you know, we don't have to move it, we don't have to monkey with it.
So will the erosion control will actually direct the water that's flowing off the driveway?
While it's there,
Yeah.
yes.
But then that
The
comes.
second sentence where it says the driveway shall be pitched towards the interior of the lot. That's only if there's gonna be,
Well, that was, and
Design.
that's, you know, and there's a discussion to be had, you know, based upon, you know, the representative's comment regarding, you know, every effort shall be made to repitch the driveway.
all right, so 42 is being changed, right?
Right, yeah, right, you know, if that's,
And again, I'm not looking to die on any hill about the shall, you know, every effort shall be, it's something that popped into my head, and we're open to a compromise.
Should we open it up to the,
yeah, see if there's comments from the
yeah,
public.
do we have any comments or questions from members of the audience?
Angela Harkness, we live at 15. So every effort shall be made based on my previous life is really meaningless. I mean, it's just in there, and if it happens, it happens, and if it doesn't, there's no recourse at all. At the same time, I understand that this is a difficult issue, and I don't want to make it worse by pitching the driveway. I certainly don't want the applicant to have to dig out the whole driveway. That's ridiculous. But something that was said about when the driveway's repaved, I guess the question is it going to be if the driveway's repaved or when the driveway's repaved, having the pavers do what they can. I agree with you that they can, you know, not meet a specific requirement, but do what they can to tilt it a little bit the other way. That would be fine with me. That's probably better also because there's a little crown at the top of my driveway, right at the bottom of the property there. I don't want to make that any worse because that's tough to get up in the winter. That's where we always get stuck in the winter when there's ice. So, you know, part of this might make that worse as well. So I guess from my point of view, I'm just not sure what the appropriate language would be to get sort of maximum compliance without going crazy on this, if that makes sense. I don't.
Who calls National Grid?
We talked to them, and that is a completely different problem.
No,
And
but I mean, to see if we can get
And
help.
you're saying that that's already underway?
according to National Grid, an order has been put in. I got an email from the guy who came out saying he's put an order in to have that done. And they were completely aware, they understood the problem, they were supposedly gonna fix it. You know, I've heard that
But at
before
least-
over the years.
At least it's another possibility.
Well, they're not gonna do anything with the driveway, though.
No, I understand.
But they're gonna make sure that that electrical box stops filling up with water, and that that the discharge from the electrical box to the swale is cleaned out, so that starts working again. And that's a big thing,
That's something.
that could, completely eliminate whatever issues might arise, along with the fact that you're putting less water on the ground, or it's going into the
The
discharge
infiltration.
basins that are being created, the roof, whatever they're called.
So,
So we're gonna come up with some wording, or, because
Well,
we just are
and-
stuck here?
well, and I guess there's two pieces of it, is the driveway is only gonna be repaved if it's
It has to be.
deteriorated enough from the construction, so that if the driveway holds up really well, we may not be in a position of needing to repave it, in which case the wording is irrelevant. But in the case of it does need to be repaved, to
Then they
the,
might take into account
to the
the other
extent
things
that they can address the situation.
I guess maybe I would suggest, wherever possible, the applicant shall, as opposed to, you still have the wherever possible, that's subject to
Yeah.
interpretation, but it's a little more than, if we can.
Yeah, well, okay.
So, that would be fine, that's actually, see, you try to
Pretty
get
much
rid of
what
the.
you said,
Well, no,
isn't it?
you get rid of the word, but I was trying to get rid of the word shall, but she's using it, and that's fine, and the other way,
Shall makes me more comfortable.
the other way to do this is remove 42, and if we wanna repave it, we come back to
You
it,
come
we
back
deal-
with a
we deal
request for
it then.
determination, yeah.
Or a minor modification, a red
Either.
line modification.
That's not a bad idea.
We're spending a lot of time arguing about something that might not happen.
Yeah, so.
I prefer to go that
so-
route, actually.
So that'll be an understood.
No, okay, so what we're doing is we're talking about taking 42 out, and we've agreed that if the driveway does need to be repaved, it's considered a minor modification.
Okay, that works for me.
We're all in agreement.
Still has to come before us.
Yes,
He
but
does.
yeah.
But as a minor
But yes, but we're not
modification,
gonna ask
it's
him
not
for a
gonna
new
stop the
filing.
The only reason that this is absolutely great would be, at that point, we would already know the extent that we would want to do, and we would,
Okay,
we
that
we
works
wouldn't
for
be
me.
talking about in platitudes and say,
Okay,
And it's
And we take out
possible,
Paving out of the
by
project
then,
description.
National Grid may be done.
and remove, okay.
Okay, that works for me.
It's also possible that by that time, National Grid will have done what they're gonna do, and we can see what, if any, effect that.
And you'll be able to see the effect that the infiltration has.
Right.
The roof infiltration.
Right.
hopefully the electricity is done well before the house is done. but-
Yes.
Okay, so can I have a motion to
Thank you.
issue the order as amended,
So moved.
with the removal of the reference to the
42.
repaving in the project description and condition 42? Right,
Collaborative, yes.
okay.
So moved.
42 will just be left blank.
Yeah, it'll be a deleted section.
I'll second that.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Okay,
Thank you very much. We'll get that up.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'll get it ready tomorrow.
Thank you very much.
Reach out to you.
thank you. So moving on to our 7:45 PM agenda item, it's a continuation of a public hearing, an issue of order of conditions for Troywick Hartford Road, LLC, lots 5, 4, and 1.
Get cold in
Will we be able to
here.
do,
Door opened or something.
I mean, I'll send them to you.
That's what he wrote on the agenda.
I have them ready.
Okay,
Nothing you haven't seen before.
all right. A pleasant surprise. Okay, good evening, Mark Slager from Allen Engineering, here on behalf of the applicants. The first one is Lot 5.
7.
Oh,
Yeah, lot 5, number 7.
Number 7. Yes.
Number 7, yes. So what we've done, we were able to move the house forward about 5 feet, which allowed me to move the roof drain infiltration system. I reran some of the numbers on the roof drain system and made it a little bit smaller. and in doing moving the house, I was able to move the slope behind the house a little bit further away from the wetland. I've located some of the trees that the abutter pointed out would be possibly in jeopardy. There's a couple of trees on the easterly side, which is on the opposite side of the silt fence. There's a 24-inch pine and an 18-inch pine. It doesn't appear that those need to come down. If we have to do it later, it would be a lot more work and a lot more expense getting a crane in there. One thing I could suggest is that we just cut them but not stump them. Or we could leave them and hope for the best. I've got the limit of work on the outside of the trees, so if we want to keep them, we don't have to do anything.
So there's about 20 feet from those trees to the top of the new grade? I'm just thinking
Yeah.
about disturbance
Yeah, I
to
would
the
say it may be a
root
little less
structure.
than that, 15 to 20 feet. I don't envision it being a big issue. I just think that, I showed them on the plan for discussion purposes. It's certainly a lot easier to get in there and cut them down before the foundation's in and before the house is built. We know how homeowners are after they move in, and they have a little fear of trees. But I don't believe they need to come down now, and if you want to, preempt any kind of future discussion, it may be something that you could take down now and just leave the stumps and not have to disturb the ground on that side.
We don't usually.
Those
take
are
that.
already, you had a tree line marked in here, and those are outside the tree line, so, right?
No, they're inside the tree line.
Well,
You're talking about
they're,
this one up here, right? That's your 24-inch, there's your.
No, over there and then right up
Oh,
front.
those definitely, they're labeled
well,
TBR.
definitely,
It's these guys I thought you were talking about there.
yeah,
Here's the tree.
Well, these are the proposed over here, but
yeah.
there's a row of proposed trees along here. But there's a pine, 24-inch pine and an 18-inch pine.
Right. Those here.
I believe they can stay, but it
They're
could,
outside your tree line anyway, right? That's
well,
Yeah, but-
yeah,
but-
no, they're inside the
They're
tree line.
inside
This is
it.
the tree line.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
All right. You're not there, away
Yeah,
from
it
the house.
just,
Yes.
it's not analogous to the situation we have at, Juniper.
No.
Okay,
Given the distance that they are, I'd leave them.
okay,
I mean, if they're fairly far away.
yeah, and now we've got the information on the plan that we can tell that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Okay. So having the silt fence put in, they'll be protected from anything. Other than that, we've addressed the comments that the commission had last time by moving the house, moving the roof drain system, and I've showed the conservation posts. Waiting for a response back from Matt as to the language on the sign of those.
Talk to the developer. Talked about it this morning.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of situations where there's a need for construction posts, and we want to have the right language. We have had it in the past.
Yeah, but in
Talk to the developer. Talk to him this morning.
We work through it. I'll give you a call.
All right,
okay.
was that in the orders?
Yeah, it's in number 48, right?
Yeah, I gave you my copies, so I don't have the.
You want?
It's all the same ones.
I'll take the official ones when they're signed. Okay, and with that, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
I don't have any.
Okay.
I'm fine too.
Any questions from members of the audience? Okay. You've all had a chance to review the order of conditions? No comments or questions?
No comments.
Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Matt, these are three separate public hearings?
There are three public
Okay,
hearings.
so can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving on to lot 4, which is 8 kernel rolls.
Okay, for this one, the only modification of the plan was adding the conservation posts along the limit of work.
Okay. Any comments or questions from members of the audience? You've had a chance to review the order of conditions?
Yep, looks good to me.
Okay. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
It's going too fast, slow down.
Moving on to lot number 1, 2 Colonel Rolls Drive.
Okay, this is the same thing. We've added construction, conservation posts along the limit of work, requested by the commission.
Okay. Any comments or questions on the order of conditions?
Look good.
Okay. Can I have a motion to issue the order of conditions?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Can I have a motion to close the public hearing?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Awesome.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Hey, have a good night.
Okay, moving on to our 7:50 PM agenda item, continuation of a public hearing for 31 Bridge Street. Good evening, Chris.
Good evening, board. How are you folks doing this evening?
Not too bad.
Good.
So what's new?
Matt came out, took pictures. I asked everybody to move the stuff out. I owe Doug some money, so I gotta pay him down, so he'll review my plan when I get him some money, hopefully after May 1st. So, that's about it. We're still moving forward. They found, Matt found he went through all the containers on site and found, I want to say 3 containers that had issues.
Three instances of,
Yeah.
it was, a jug of hydraulic oil or things that, had accumulated, I think, probably since. But overall, it was, hard goods and,
It's pretty tidy.
equipment, yeah. And at that time, spoke with Chris about the items that were identified in phase 2 of the enforcement order, the items to be included with the notice of intent plan, including, snow storage, improvements to the, stormwater, retention, so it's not just direct overland flow in places. And that was included in the email to you and Doug,
Yeah, Doug,
to kind of address while the existing conditions plan certainly is gets what's on the ground today. The ultimate goal is, what's the plan of, where things are going to be, where things are going to be stored, how they're going to be, how the wetlands on the property are protected, so that, snow is directed to places not directly adjacent to wetland resources and things like that. And as, the update with, I don't know if it's the commission's pleasure, if May 1st is, kind of your, there, but, with the commission's meetings being on the 10th and the 24th next month, that would be something for the commission to consider, putting it out more than 2 weeks if, we're gonna be, I'm gonna be preparing a packet in another,
Happens all the time.
next week, so, I don't know if, a plan would be ready at that time, and,
How about the second?
Okay, Jim, you have a question?
What's the plan for the final location of the storage containers and what's gonna go in them?
Storage containers right now, some of them I have one tenant, the tree person's leaving. And so he's given me his notice as soon as he can sell his bucket truck and a couple other things. One container will be moving. There's a trailer with hard goods in it. We've asked that gentleman's been requested to move his trailer. It's a,
Do we have a plan, the plan view that we had a month or so ago? Because there were quite a number of metal containers, some of them partially in wetlands and others
Well,
in the buffer. Those are the
pretty
ones
much-
that I'm concerned, I heard like petroleum products and stuff and.
Yeah, no, none of them were the ones in the, they were certainly further away from the wetland resource, and those have been removed and, or it's been addressed, you know. I think it was just accumulated, you know, in the 2 years since, you know, 3 years since that original enforcement and kind of the documentation occurred. I can certainly prepare.
Something's gonna be marked up that'll show which ones are gonna go away that aren't.
Well, I mean, they were, you know, they were more of a 5-gallon, you know, jug.
All it showed on the plan was metal boxes.
But you're talking containers.
He's talking about containers.
You're talking physical containers, you're talking about oil containers.
I'm talking about contents within those.
So like a jug?
Right.
Yeah.
All I'd
Yeah.
seen so far was a picture, oh, not a plan that showed a box.
Mm-hmm.
And that was it, and you were saying that some of them had
Yeah,
petroleum
and they
products
were,
in it.
and I think there were 3 instances, and if they've been, you know.
They were asked to get the stuff squared away, and again, the one that was up on the pad, you were worried with, that was empty.
Yeah, okay.
That was,
There was a larger.
We couldn't get to it because there's stuff in the way, but.
And
yeah,
it was
that
a larger, you know, it looked to be, you know, 20-gallon plus, you know, and that was associated with the tree company, which, you know, if that's, and it was, you know, worked toward, you know, with them selling off and, you know, getting off the property, you know, my intent was, you know, let's make sure that it, you know, whether it gets removed somehow, but it's also, you know, as
If
Chris
it's removed
is
and it-
attesting, it was empty, so.
It's removed and goes
Yeah,
away,
right.
that's
So if
good.
it-
If it stays, then we need to know what's gonna go in it. Right, because I don't wanna see, oh, it's empty, so we're just gonna leave it there, and then in 6 months we go back and it's full of gasoline
So
or
are these,
oil or something.
these container boxes, they're actually owned by your,
By my tenants.
By your tenants,
I
okay.
own none of them.
Okay.
And everybody's been informed that dry goods, non-hazardous dry goods, you could store some, your lawn equipment, rakes, shovels, that kind of thing.
Mhm.
Nothing that would pollute the groundwater.
There were a lot of ladders.
That's fine.
Yeah,
Well,
right, you know, but again, just kind of like
but
the
that's
context
what
for
we have.
what's in there, you know, there was a washing machine, I remember a bunch of, there were more than one container held ladders, and I was, okay,
Perfectly
that's,
fine.
yeah, right, you know, I wasn't concerned with those.
Yeah, we have, and that was on the far side of the building, more towards the foundry. And now that person's a general contractor.
So
and
is there gonna be like a plan for,
Yeah.
if they're gonna go away, they can be removed?
Right.
If they're not gonna go away, then what's gonna go in them, or what's gonna be
Well, they've
allowed?
all been told, and I.
They're all gonna go away?
I can't afford to have them all go away. I have a tough enough time down there. They've all been told that fluids are not allowed.
Lubricating oil,
Lubrication
fuels.
oil, fuel oil, hydraulic oil, brake fluid, you know, that kind of thing is not supposed to be left
Okay.
in those areas.
All right.
Have it on announcements.
You know, we had one guy that had 10 bags of concrete left in his, and they were as hard as a rock, because it's so damp down there.
It just waits now.
Yeah.
So, it was,
That's just taking up space.
yeah, that guy's just, that,
Inspections on
Yeah.
Okay.
so.
So at this point, you're working with Doug to
Yeah, I'm
get
gonna-
that second plan?
To get the second level done, what we're
Okay.
gonna do now that we have, and I also have to add the vernal pool or the wetlands
There's a
that are in
wetland
front.
south of Bridge Street that wasn't
That's
shown on
across
the-
the other
Across
side
the
of
street?
Bridge
Yeah,
Street.
that, you know, that was one thing I noticed just as I was walking back after, you know,
Yeah.
confirming the wetland delineation that, you know,
Yeah, that-
and again, it's off the subject property, but at the same time, it certainly, you know, does need to
impacts
be
it.
shown. I mean, it's, you know, if
There's a buffer zone.
if there's 10 feet, you know, between the edge of the roadway and this, you know, wetland resource, that's, you know, probably
That would
10
be
too many.
generous.
But that does mean that there is some portion of a buffer on the, you know, affecting that front of the property, which, you know, which would be good to have on the plan.
So is May 24th a
That should
better-
be satisfactory. I mean, as long as Doug has enough time to do it.
Well, and
Yeah,
but
and
it's
again,
it's Doug having time to do it and then get the material to match. So
Right.
the 24th
But
sounds better.
That sounds, the 10th of May would not be satisfactory timeframe.
So we had a plan that had showed current conditions, that was the one
Yeah.
that had these unidentified boxes of
Yep,
storage
I will
containers.
have, for this continued meeting on the 24th, I'll have
Certain ones are
a
gonna be-
write-up of, similar to the one in the enforcement order that had the photos, documented things. Again,
How it is now.
yes, with the photos and again, there may just be a lot of hard goods, there was a lot of, hardware, things like that, just because
that's fine, yeah.
I can't identify
What I'm concerned about is over time, and a lot of time has passed.
Yep.
As
Yeah,
additional time
they-
passes,
it certainly-
the things grow back into the boxes, or the boxes get pushed off the parking areas closer and closer back to the wetlands, and
No,
what I'm
realistically,
concerned
they've
about.
all, they were dropped there and they've been, I would say everything there has been there 3+ years
So-
at least. And we haven't added anything, maybe there was 140 yarder, but we haven't added anything. And I've been up people's butts, everybody knows I'm here once a month to get this stuff squared away. And so I told them, if I catch them with anything there, that, they're out, because I can't deal with the additional stress. So,
Does this so, I don't know if it's this next phase or whatever, but so there's also gonna be something that when you have new tenants coming in who may want to bring a box on site, there's gonna be a process in place for where that box would get located?
I allowed boxes to come in
Okay,
20 years ago.
so this is.
I probably will not allow boxes to come in. And the only time I think at this point I would allow boxes to come in is if they were up in the upper, we have like an old foundation above the wetlands, and that would probably be the only place I would allow anything to come in
Okay,
like that ever again.
so we don't get back into this situation.
I'm hopefully not gonna fall back into that quagmire.
Okay, can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to May 24th? Can I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you,
See
Chris.
you on the 24th.
See you on the 24th.
Yes.
Moving on to our 7:55 PM agenda item, it's continuation of a public hearing for noise, 6 Callista Terrace. Good evening.
Hi, good evening. So yeah, for the record, I'm Russ Tedford with Hancock Associates. Next to me is the owner, Ryan. So last meeting we were asked to explore options for that side slope next to 8 Callista Terrace, and there's really only 2 options you can go with. There's right here, which is the graded option, and the only way to make this option work is to go onto 8 Callista Terrace's property and sort of blend the existing contours from their property into the proposed retaining wall, as you see. And in doing that, it actually makes the retaining wall a lot smaller in terms of height. There's a call out that says, top wall is 91.5, bottom wall's 88 with a 3.5 foot height. I think if you were to look at our originally submitted plan, it's probably about 8 or 9 feet in that area. And yes, as you can see, it's a 6-to-1 slope in that area, and then carries it down to a 3-to-1 slope towards the end of the retaining wall along that property line. So from contour 87 down to 74, it's a 3-to-1 slope, and that brings us right to where the 75-foot no-build buffer line is, and from there we're able to catch up to existing grade that way. So this is option 1. Option 2 was a terraced wall option. So this one does not include any work on the other lot, but as you can see here, it's not really much gain in terms of our perspective. It's 2 little terrace sections of wall that are, they have to be under 4 feet per zoning. But beyond that, it's a 3-to-1 slope till we meet, I think it's elevation 77 on the plan. So Ryan has had discussions with the neighbor at 8 Callista, and they do prefer the graded option the option 1 that you saw first. So obviously, 8 is their project was here before the board a couple of months ago. They're currently ready to be wrapped up with that project. Right now, they're really just waiting for vegetative growth to come back, and optimistically, they can probably go for their COC sometime in the summer. And I think, based on the conversations that Ryan had with them, they would prefer to keep these 2 projects separate, and just have, and they want to close out what they have done already with their patio project, and then if it would appease the board to go with this option, that it could be included with this. And we're here for more of like guidance on how this works out procedurally. Do we add them as a co-applicant and we have to re-notify butters, or is this?
I think if that's the, I know we discussed a minor modification, but if the Deegans are looking to close it out, yes, I think adding them as a co-applicant, notifying just the abutters to the new subject property, because, you know, we've kind of started down the, you know, you've opened the public hearing, notified abutters, legal notice, all that. And I mean, we could certainly, you know, if an abutters list for a Deegan can get prepared shortly, I mean, it's a 5-day notice, you know. So it certainly could get included with, you know,
on the May 10th?
Right, work towards notifying the abutters and putting in a legal notice for the meeting on May 10th. Continue this public hearing to then, when we open the new, then all new parties will be included in the public hearing process. You know, give a 5-minute overview as to what we're doing, and then, you know, we can certainly, I can also have draft special conditions if the commission is satisfied with the graded design.
Okay. I guess one other thing I had, it's escaping me now. Sorry. How good is an abutters list? Because I know for 8 I got one.
3 months.
3 months, yeah, then never mind. Okay, I was gonna see if it was still valid, but that's not the case.
I had that thought too.
So there's no way we could include them, like, we'd have to have a separate another process for them. I think we were trying to, obviously talking with them, we're just, we're trying to kind of do good by, you know, the board's request. Now, as a result, we're kind of filling onto their property a little bit.
Yeah, it's a new subject property. There's new abutters to, you know, the area. You know, if the grading was being tied in, if the grading on 8 was outside the 100-foot buffer, I could work the logical path down to that conclusion. But where there is work within, I mean, with the commission, I mean, it's still, you know, even an RDA is still an abutter notification and legal, you know, that's still, you know, it's not.
This doesn't all just count as one project for 6 Callista Terrace?
No. But it's on a separate it's on.
Right, it's on 2 different plots of land.
Right, which is owned by a different, you know, which has different abutters there too.
Right.
So that's the.
You're saying because the abutters have already been notified for 6 Callista, but not 6
right,
plus
you know,
a little bit of.
There could be abutters for 8, there weren't abutters for 6.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay, so our notification to the abutters didn't include, there's probably 2 or 3 properties now that they touch.
Yeah.
Okay.
So sorry, so I understand, because we're trying to keep them out of it. Sounds like we can't to some degree. Would they have to go through a whole nother notice of intent and?
No,
like,
so it would be added to, you know, they'd be listed as a co-applicant.
So what does that mean? Because obviously this project could carry on.
No, it just changes the, you know, the page 1 of the notice of intent form. It says, you know, the work is being proposed on a property owned by, on additional property owner's property. You know, we get their signature, authorizing for them to authorize the work. You know, we don't want to, we can't say, you know, the commission can't say, yes, this work can be done without their authorization.
You're still in charge of the work.
I think we want to make sure it doesn't tie them legally to anything about this project, because this is a massive project, as you see.
I
And
understand.
we don't want them to be legally bound or
No,
anything
it's
to
just
everything
work
else.
being done on their property.
Okay.
And I mean, it would get recorded on the registry of deeds, but it, much like the first project tonight with the Boston Road, where the engineering or highway department is obtaining permanent easements on, these private properties, I want it recorded on their property, on their deed, so that, a future home buyer understands that, this was allowed, but also, kind of in, pretending to play a lawyer, indemnifies them from, actually having to do the project, because it's not, it's not the Deegan's project. So it'll get recorded there just because it is work on their property, but I can, work my English.
Yeah, I've had a similar project too, where an applicant inherited a property with an outstanding order of conditions, and the previous owner had not undertaken the work, and the new owner did not intend to carry out the work. So it's kind of a similar situation like that.
So new abutters, new notice of intent, posting, and
It would just be revising that first.
Yeah, it's just revising the form.
First
and getting
form
their
where it
signature.
lists
Yeah.
property owners.
Yeah.
It would be you as well as the Deacons, and then 6 and 8 Callista Terrace. Yep.
and we have to publish again now.
He was saying that we just have to re-notify any new abutters that are.
Yeah, just anybody who new abutters to 8, which weren't previously notified with your, and then a legal notice as well, again, needs to be for the regulation, to comply with the regulation.
Okay, so newspaper ad, okay.
I'll try to make it as unwordy as possible.
So this is activity that these activities can happen to the point where we can then, on the May 10th meeting, we can be in discussion and talking about this new, proceeding with option 1, and going through the public hearing process and closing it out, so that, issuing order of conditions, et cetera, so that you can move forward with your project.
It's not as complicated as moving.
Okay.
Sorry, I'm the one that's bringing this whole conversation down, just trying to understand.
But it just,
And I can understand your concerns.
Yeah.
It's not as complicated.
Okay. all right.
It's just covering all bases.
No, and that's what we want to do. That's why we're here.
It won't challenge
Yep.
anything, it'll have been properly posted.
so is there anything else we need to do before we continue the public hearing?
Russ did provide the seed mix for the slopes. It's New England wetlands plants, erosion control, and mix for dry sites. It's,
Okay.
it is what it is.
So can I have a motion to continue the public hearing to May 10th? All those in favor? Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Moving on to our discussion and action items. Do we want to take the Day Agricultural Field Flowers to Empower request?
Sure.
Certainly.
They look like they're ready.
Yes,
Thank you for your patience.
yes.
Yeah. Hello, I'm Gianna Rosario. I'm a Flowers to Empower farmer.
And I'm Elizabeth Almeida, 41 West Street.
So we are here to talk about the location for the compost piles.
I went out last week, looked at the existing location of the pile. The enclosures hadn't been enclosed yet. Certainly looked to be a little bit larger than one 8-foot diameter circle, and in discussions and included in the email with Gianna, requesting 2 8-foot diameter circles of compost. I think doing bad math and geometry that I haven't done in many years, I think it may work out just right. And where it is located, directly adjacent to their growing area, certainly seems consistent with the lease agreement, and also doesn't encroach upon the lease agreement of the farmer.
Okay.
And it's 8 foot, not 8 inches, right?
Yes, yeah, we had that discussion.
Yeah, we did.
I was like, 8 inches.
Yeah, no.
I mean, it is a rabbit, right? Yeah, it's small. So, no, yes, it is 8 feet that we've had that discussion.
And I know there's a path to the AP area, and the compost piles are not, in any way,
No, the path to the apiary goes from the parking area northerly along Forge Village, Graniteville
Graniteville,
Road,
okay.
and then due west at the
Okay.
top of these are located on the westerly side of the growing area. So I certainly think it is consistent if the commission has any other questions.
Sounds good.
So can I have a motion to approve the 2 8-foot compost piles as proposed?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
So you're all set?
Great,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. And moving on to the Stony Brook Conservation Area off-leash dog enforcement.
So one of the first steps I have been taken, I did contact the animal control officer, express the commission's desire for increased enforcement for dogs being off leash. I also spoke with the police chief about issuing tickets and fines, as he has a little bit more experience with that. And he advised to make sure that all the signage is consistent and there aren't any conflicting signage, which this was one that was heading up towards the Camp Waukee access road, and the last kind of point was the one that was each dog on the premise must have a leash or a coupler with a leash, and it didn't say dogs must be leash. Looking back in our files from Carol, this looks to have been approved and reviewed in 2016. And at that time, I'm assuming this was what what the understanding of the leash bylaw was, and so.
Change the word.
Oh, well, I mean, I just removed, I took down the sign, and there are a couple other places that I want to that I have noticed this, and I'm working with the Friends. The Friends have the similar kind of language in the box, and also they have an outdated commission rules and regulations shown, so I'm looking to get a new one of those put in, prepared and put in.
Good stuff.
And we're working toward, and again, and
Thank
the
you.
chief of police also thought it would be best to add the specific citations for fining, and
It makes it more meaty.
How come my street doesn't have a speed limit sign on it? There's a speed limit, right?
What?
My street has a speed limit, there's no sign, so how could they possibly give me a ticket? How many streets have a no drunk
Every
driving
street.
allowed?
How many streets around town have a sign that says no drunk driving allowed?
Well, then, so do you want me to take? So Jim, I'll play this out because it's
gonna
no. So
can
I'm,
have more
the
than
current
less.
signs that say dogs must be leashed. The green sign, little,
Yeah,
has the
and
image,
fines.
and then beneath it says, please clean up after
Letters.
your. So I'm going to remove that. Please clean up because the people that do are and it's not going. Explicitly telling them that they need to clean up after the pet, I don't think is going to change the behavior for whether or not they pick up after the pet. I'm going to put the citations for the bylaw for that. Or we can just completely remove all signage and then see, and then that much to your point of
just
your
like my
dog,
street,
your
right.
street doesn't have a speed limit, but there is a speed limit.
not the same
We
sign.
can remove all the signs, but I
No,
would do it
we'll
at
have
the
more,
direction
not
of the
less.
commission.
Couldn't we also have plastic bags there? You know how in some of the places where they, you don't want that?
I'm just saying, if you have it, then you have to put a place for it, because they're just gonna drop it there.
That's
Well,
what they do
wouldn't you-
now.
so you have a
The- the
container?
pe- Some of the people that carry the bags in, just drop them on the side of the road
I
as little
know.
presents. Expect the
Expect us to
dog
clean 'em up.
fairies to pick them up, yeah.
But whenever I've seen the plastic bags, there's always been a bin there too. In other places.
But then you have to have somebody whose responsibility is to,
We can ask the Friends that. Can we ask the Friends if they'd be interested in
Sure, I can ask them.
You know, that
Yeah.
we're looking to have.
I know what my response would be, but yeah, we can ask the friends.
Well, I think they can do something like that. Come on,
that's-
you know.
Okay.
I don't think that's a
I'll
big
reach out.
ask.
If you don't ask, they
I don't
can't
think it's a
say
big
yes.
ask. I don't think it's a big ask.
Well, yeah, but it just
You know?
is, if you don't ask,
And we raise money there when they have their events, and a little bit can go to whatever it would take to have somebody come and empty this.
yeah. Well, and, yeah, because part of it also is emptying it in the off-season when, our person,
Yeah, the facility coordinator isn't, you know.
So we have to find out, ask somewhere else.
well,
I
no,
don't know
no,
what they
but
do. Yeah.
if it's the friends doing it, then they've got it covered 12 months of the year.
Yeah.
As opposed to when we've got the facilities
Let's ask the
coordinator.
friends to do it,
Okay.
Yeah, if they will do it, that's,
if they'd be willing to do that. So that way we're helping people keep the law.
Okay.
Doesn't
Well, that's-
work, we revisit it.
yeah, it's worth a pilot.
But
It's
we've
a-
never done it, and I like the idea that it's in other
thank you.
places.
So it's a pilot project, we're giving it a try.
Okay.
Okay. Is there anything else we need to deal with?
Yeah,
We had a
backside,
site visit to Spalding Hill.
What's
Yep.
Spalding Hill?
space, trail, open space
St.
trail.
Augustine.
I'm sorry?
It's off of St. Augustine off of.
The old canal,
The piggery.
Yes.
So what about this now?
We checked out the trail was marked, by Mark Slager, around the outside on the common land, and, we walked the proposed trail, and most of it seemed fine, except for the very, very beginning, right where it came off of the trailhead
Emergency
from the road.
access, yeah.
So that area, from St. James Way into that first lot area right there, is probably gonna be relayed out, but the rest of it seemed fine.
Oh, that's good.
We walked the whole trail.
well, and there was the possibility that up by the detention basin, it's shown as going along the top of it. There was some discussion, it might make more sense to actually have, route the trail around below the base, rather than having people walking, along the top, right?
But yes, and it's, you know, and I don't, in discussions with Mark Slager and, you know, on site, it was one of those, it may just be best to see what the best condition is once that basin is installed.
I get it.
And especially just for that one area.
Whether it's atop of it, around it, yep, I get it.
You know, I think it's a, you know, a reasonable thought to proceed with, but, you know, they're looking to start moving towards phase 2 and phase 3, and this was one of the items in phase 1 that the commission identified. So, it's certain, I thought overall, the layout of the trail was certainly consistent with, you know, sound practices for, and there's a pretty good hike up a long.
There's some good hills in there, and it also tries to stay away from both the brand-new houses that are being built here as part of the development and the ones down on Dunstable Road. It stays away from their rear property line, so it splits the difference. It's pretty good.
It's a little bit more than a half a mile long.
Feels longer than that because of the hills.
Yeah, coming back up from the first half, you know, going down is really nice, but, you know, the second half, regardless of which way you're going,
It's a good
back
thing I don't
uphill.
take those walks
Yeah.
anymore.
Okay,
We had one more item in the packet. There was something from the Meadow Lane Trust
Yes.
trustees. It seemed as though they were asking us to give them a tour of their own property.
Yes, and I think this came about originally when the Fort Meadow Lane was discovered out there.
When what?
The little fort that was constructed. Sorry, I call it Fort Meadow Lane. It was the wooden structure that some.
around the beginning of the year.
They built a teepee or something? Or?
No.
I'll find a picture and include it. But
I also don't remember.
but I
Was that a
reached out.
hunter?
No, it was 10-year-olds.
And an ankle.
Yeah, there was an uncle involved too.
Yeah.
But
Chainsaws.
but they
What, alcohol?
No, uncle.
chainsaw.
Chainsaw?
Yeah, but they, so I reached out to the trust to tell them that, you know, the construction of, you know, a structure, and the, you know, cutting of vegetation was not allowed, and to, you know, please figure out who's you know, reach it within your community, because it's only accessible to the lots within Meadow Lane. It's not a publicly accessible conservation restriction. So, you know, they followed up with, oh, we'd like to meet and kind of understand what your, you know, where this actually is, what the language of it is. And so kind of go, you know, just kind of have a walk out there with the trust you know, that was, if any of the commissioners are interested.
I got the impression from their email or letter that they were asking us to give them a tour of the land.
Well, I mean, again, I mean, this was constructed.
It's their property.
You know, and it was constructed back in, I don't know, late 90s. So, you know, there's probably been some turnover of residents there, and they don't, you know, I'm glad they want to, you know more about it.
Where is this?
Meadow Lane, it's up off of West Street.
Right across from the Sportsman's Club.
It's what?
Behind the sportsman, across the street from the sportsman's club.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And so if there's any commissioners who are interested in
It's like Cam's.
joining, I'd be, you know, I'll try to be setting this up in the next couple of weeks. And, you know, if anybody's interested, please reach out to me, and, you know, we'll have it as a, I'll coordinate with the trust, and, you know, just have kind of a nice little walk in the woods, go talk about again, I'm not a surveyor, so I can't, you know, be like, oh, here's your you know, here's where the property ends, but I can certainly go back to the subdivision plans, find the you know, see what was
It
used.
sounds like there must be a turnover there.
Yeah, and so it's just, they want to know what's actually, you know, what's expected of them
Someone's
as the
Someone's
entity.
asking.
So I'm all for education and, you know,
Okay, I
meeting
agree.
with them. So please reach out to me in the next couple days. I'll try and schedule it probably sometime the latter half of next week.
And there's one more item. Noelle couldn't make it tonight, but she had been walking the trails down near the Nabnasset Elementary School, and off to the the west side of the school. There's a trail that goes parallel with Plain Road, does a loop around the school property, and then returns to the school. And at the farthest point along there, it borders some residential area, and there's looked like a small wetland area, and it looks like kids have been using some disturbances in the land as a bicycle racing track or something. And it's right next to the wetland area, and there's also about 6 or 8 trees that anywhere from 2 to 6 inches in diameter that have been cut. I don't know why, like about 4 feet off the ground. They look like fresh cuts. Don't know why. So the trees that are cut are probably on school property. The wetland is probably on the private property. So Noelle has contacted the elementary school principal, and they're gonna take a look at it tomorrow, she said.
Okay, yeah. I mean, I was looking into the wetland on the private property. I'm thinking it may have been a constructed detention basin.
Could be.
But
Yeah.
also, you know, it was likely constructed prior to the
A long time ago.
stormwater standards
Yeah.
as implemented in the Wetlands Protection Act. So, you know, it may have been a detention basin that's now acting like a wetland. And so, again, you know, we can certainly keep an eye on it and try and, you know, I'm sure the school the school themselves isn't, you know,
They're not
actively doing it.
I don't think they're that interested. It's as far away from the school as you can get and still be on their property.
Right, and so,
Nabnasset Elementary, yeah.
Although that becomes an interesting point, is in terms of making sure that if somebody is putting in a trail, that they're not, that the trail is not trespassing onto the adjacent parcel.
Like I said, I don't know
Yeah,
what the
I
property
mean,
lines are. I don't know.
Yeah, but
That's-
yeah. If
The trees are
Noel's-
marked with a blue spray paint blaze, and that's it. I don't know who did it, I don't know when, I don't know where the markers are for boundaries. Just blue spray paint on the trees. And it's, you know, it's a clear trail on the ground, but I don't know where it came from.
Well, yeah, if
I know the Conservation Trust has done a walk around the NAB school. I know it's not a big property, but they did do one of their Saturday morning walks through there.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.